Greetings, my name is Robert and I'm the owner of Merit Systems International, the developer of the MARETweb Project. You're watching video number 7 in the Therapist Builder video series. The Therapist Builder video series provides expert education for therapists of all levels, and they're all available on the Counsel Master YouTube channel. There's a click icon there to get right to all those videos. Today is October 12th, 2020, and I would really appreciate it if you would like and share this video with others, and subscribe to this channel. You'll get automatic notifications whenever anything is posted on the YouTube channel. So without further ado, we're getting to the B finally in the ABCs of cognitive behavioral therapy. This is a legal notice. You can pause your screen. Basically, it says you're responsible for your own actions when you counsel, and we're not responsible for you doing something that you shouldn't do. And you might want to pause at this screen. Also, there's a wide range of things that the Therapist Builder series covers, and this particular one is about counseling procedures using cognitive behavioral therapy. And unfortunately, this one's going to be kind of long. I'll try to keep them to 10 minutes to 15 minutes at the max. That's probably going to be stretching it at this point. So we're at the B and the ABCs of CBT, but as a matter of review, let's look at the ABCs again. Activating event, antecedent, that's the one I like. Activating situation, all of those are pretty common for titling the A in the ABCs. And now let's talk about the B. But before we get to the B, let's talk about a different kind of B. There was this guy, his name was John, and he loved to garden. He's out in his garden one day, and he got stung by a bee on his shoulder. And as time went on, it started to swell, he started to sweat, it started to get hot and irritated, and he really didn't feel well. He kept gardening, and his neighbor came over, and unaware of what had happened, his neighbor put his hand right on the bee sting on his shoulder. And John went off. He was yelling and screaming at his neighbor and called him inconsiderate and a whole bunch of other names, completely out of control toward his neighbor. What's the moral of this story? John should have been mad at the bee, because the bee was the one that was ultimately responsible for his pain, not his neighbor. But this is what happens with not only bee sting, but all of our previous life events. They're all bee stings, and other people in our older adult life can trigger off the pain of that bee sting, and we can say and do things and act out in ways that seem quite illogical to the vast majority of other people, but they don't know about the bee sting. So the purpose of cognitive behavioral therapy is to make the pain of the bee sting go away. The B is for beliefs, belief system, belief structure, beliefs and thoughts. You can see the activating event follows or precedes the beliefs and the thinking patterns, and thinking patterns would be cognitive distortions also. Let's define what a belief is. A belief is anything in a client's personal economy that they deem as true. Many beliefs are personal, like I'm a loser, I'm ugly, I'm a winner. There's also a lot of culture and social beliefs. Racism falls in there easily. Beliefs can be negative or positive. Truth often lies under a pile of negative beliefs. Negative beliefs energize cognitive distortions. They're the fuel. Unless those negative beliefs are dislodged, there can be no healing. In fact, challenging and disputing negative beliefs is the key to diminution of the cognitive distortions and the resultant negative consequences, such as elevated anxiety and depression. And then that's the reason that you want to use quick test every session, because if the person has been cognitive distorting throughout the week, you're probably going to find elevated anxiety and depression, which will point to those cognitive distortions. Locating a client's beliefs, sometimes it's not that easy. It's imperative for the therapist to identify a client's belief system. Sometimes it's difficult for a client to open up and identify their beliefs. So the subconscious mind likes to hide negative beliefs since the client uses them as a tool to mask a reality that they cannot cope with. CBT client assessment may be helpful as a conversational tool to help the client to open up. And as you discuss a client's cognitive distortions, you'll be able to aid them in discovering their negative beliefs. At the core of negative beliefs are unconscious imprints. We covered that in the last video. As negative beliefs are eradicated and new, more positive beliefs are put in place, the false imprints will fade away. What we believe is not reality, it's perception of reality. Beliefs are likely rooted in past activating events, many times trauma-based. Past traumas color present realities. Thus, to some degree or another, negative beliefs are rooted in trauma, which has not been resolved because the client continues to assign it or something similar to present. Consider PSD in this. A wartime event gets reactivated from fireworks. There's no threat of war, but there is in this person's perception because the two got married. Beliefs and feelings. Adverse emotion, which is the C in the ABC's consequences, is a reaction to negative, distorted thinking and believing systems. In all likelihood, where anxiety and or depression are elevated, there are cognitive distortions. Adverse emotion is not an illness or disease, it's a response pattern. Psychoactive drugs may mute it, but they cannot heal or remove it. Destructive negative automatic thinking patterns shape our interpretation of the world around us. Negative beliefs are about self are the foundation of depressive and anxiety states. Clients don't come to us because of what they believe. They don't come in and say, my problem is I'm minimizing and maximizing. No, they come in because of how they feel. I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I'm having panic attacks. I can't get out of bed, I'm so depressed. They come in with hopes that we can relieve them of their feelings. As therapists, we can't fall into the trap of treating feelings. It's more than that. We need to turn our focus from the feelings to the facts, to the cognitive distortions that are associated with their faulty and negative belief system. The only time that a client has a problem is when they feel that they have a problem. This can greatly complicate therapy. The client will have an enormous desire to focus on feelings during therapy. As therapy proceeds and negative feelings subside, there will be a great propensity for the client to just say, well, I'm fixed now. No more depression, no more panic attacks. As far as they're concerned, the problem has been solved. The therapist who simply treats the client's feelings is doing a disservice to the client. This method of counseling is reactionary and results won't usually last very long. The therapist needs to battle against this potential. The client must be tested with CBT client assessment during or before the first session. The therapist must use therapeutic best practices and create a treatment plan. The focus is on the completion of the advanced Socratic questions generated by the CBT assessment. Again, according to the best practices used in the counseling community, the client must be involved in the whole treatment plan creation process. You've got to identify a problem, and the client has to say, yes, that is my problem, I agree. Now let's create a treatment plan. How are we going to treat XYZ problem? We're going to use these 10 steps. When we go from 1 to 10, then when we get to 10, we'll both agree that we're done. Otherwise, we're still in session. This is an exercise that may help you get a client relaxed enough to begin to recognize some of their beliefs. It's called the I am exercise. And basically what you're going to do here is you're going to say I am, and the client's going to respond. You say I am, the client says stupid. I am, great. So on down the line. You're going to want to record these as they do it. In fact, I record them in order, because the first thing that comes to their mind is probably the most prominent thing. These are valuable responses. They point to a client's beliefs. It may not be the belief, but they point in that direction. This is a nice opening exercise. Characteristics of negative beliefs. We develop negative beliefs most powerfully through the mantras of other people. Good girls don't do whatever, real men don't cry. We will activate or behave according to these embedded negative beliefs. They are intrinsically connected to false and negative imprints at the conscious level. Go back and listen to the last TBS number 6. This was covered greatly in that area. The more we rehearse these beliefs, the more they will become automatic self-fulfilling prophecies. It's sometimes useful to understand how our own negative beliefs come about before we reprogram them, how and why they were imprinted. Negative self-taught, self-appraisal, emotional reaction to situations is a sign of consistent negative belief structure. And I want to emphasize here, sometimes useful, not all the time. Childhood and cognitive distortion formation. Parents are the primary foundational source of negative beliefs. Peers, teachers, good secondary sources. Our psychological and emotional core is built upon our earliest childhood imprints. We'll look at that here very shortly. Those imprints color everything. Some researchers even believe it's prenatal. Those imprints will continue to nearly dictate our behaviors and emotions. That's the C in the ABCs. As they trigger off cognitive distortions and beliefs, that's the B, in response to an A, an activating event. As adults, the only way things can be different is if we re-imprint what was imprinted as a child. Many of our behaviors are defenses to protect our core beliefs, which were set in the home environment, even if those beliefs are self-destructive. Let's look at the stages, negative belief development stages, and I haven't cited a reference here because there are a number of people that do this in a number of different ways, and I've kind of amalgamated all of them. This is the scary part. 0 to 7 years old is the imprinting stage. It's unconscious, and virtually our entire personality is cast at this point. It's not finalized. It will mutate a bit, but this is where the foundation is to our adult life. Core belief development, largely parental in influence, some imprinting prior to verbalization. Archetypes of cognitive distortions are formed. 7 to 14 years old, this is the modeling stage. It's unconscious or subconscious. And it's structured around the imprints. That's why I say this is scary. The imprints are scary. Whatever was imprinted there is now going to fall out. Structured around the imprints from a previous stage. Imprints are literally the masters. Imprints accept, reject prospective data based on how that data supports the imprints. Imprints are validated, reinforced, and expanded. Cognitive distortions are tested and refined without conscious verbalization. Development of learning styles happens here. Somewhat more hands-on learning experience. Some conscious learning, but heavily based on subconscious, sub or unconscious cues. Negative beliefs, 14 to 21 years old. This is the high school age, and shortly after. Socialization, conscious, unconscious, subconscious, they're all involved here. Reflection or modeling stage outwardly on social structure. Taking the imprints out into the world for a test drive to make social contracts. Social structuring generated by the dictates of the imprints. And full implementation of defense mechanisms and cognitive distortions as tools to develop the imprints. This is where we begin to see the formation of the PSA, personality spectrum analysis, forming. Not fulfilled at this point. This is where it begins. If a person is going to turn into a psychopath, this is the stage. Sociopath, this is where the stage. A schizotypal, this is the stage. It can be averted, but this is where it begins to get built. 21 plus, maybe never, conscious level only, active or proactive learning, testing imprints, modifying imprints, rejecting imprints, challenging, dismantling cognitive distortions, eliminating negative or false beliefs. All of those things are conscious when a person says, you know what, it's time to change. Repeated events, especially in early childhood, will result in strong imprinting and establishment of negative beliefs with accompanying cognitive distortions. When parental negative imprints get reinforced in social settings, they become powerful forces. They become the source of psychological disorders and maladaptations. Maturity allows a person to reevaluate the imprints, and the foundation is largely through recognition and analysis of cognitive distortions. It's the key to look at cognitive distortions and to realize how they got formed. Now let's look at neuro-linguistic programming and how it looks at these things. Very similar. The A is a life event. This can be a present life event or a past life event that a person is reliving, pulling into the present. Or it could be a future event. I got a test next week and I'm anxious about it. Well, we're not to the test. We're dragging the test into the present so that we can worry about it. It's comparable to an activating event. All internal processes are the result of life events. Everything that goes on inside of you is from a life event, an activating event. It is a present manifestation, even if the actual life event is past or future. We give meaning to these life events. This is the B. These are the beliefs, the thoughts. This is the interpretation of the life event. What does it mean to us? Meaning it gets stuck inside a bubble. If we always say that this is the way things are going to be. This is why some people cannot ever change. Emotion, this is the doorway to see. In NLP, emotion and behaviors are separated, and emotion, the belief of NLP is emotion always comes first, and I fully agree with that. Emotion is a reaction to the meaning of the life event, the CBA. Let's go backwards with it. It can re-trigger the meaning, it can refabricate the meaning, and create a cycle of anxiety and depression elevations. Again, emotion comes first, then behaviors. This is the effect of the emotional cause, and it happens when we live in the emotional mind. Remember, we just talked about a client coming in and saying, I've got these feelings and I need to get rid of them. When we live in an emotional mind, we have bad behaviors. The outcome, C, is the final consequence. This is what happens at the end of the whole process. Behavioral problems are not a sickness. They are purely behavioral due to a lack of responsibility. Empowerment comes with responsibility. So, one final statement here. I've only gone 5 minutes over, so that's not too bad. NLP talks about 3 elements that we need to look for. One is deletion. People delete stuff. They don't remember things that are important to remember. They distort stuff. They take something and blow it up. And they generalize. You never do anything good for me. Generalization is a key. Beliefs are not reality. They're representative constructs of what we deem or can accept as real. Beliefs are the mind's way of creating meaning to experiences, reflecting off of the imprints. Let me say that again. This is my own summary. It's not a quote from someone else. Beliefs are not reality. They are representative constructs of what we deem or can accept as reality. Beliefs are the mind's way of creating meaning to experience, reflecting off of the imprints. And for now, this is it. We will look at C in a very short time.